Welcome back to Sportskeeda MMA News. Today's news features Francis Ngannou on Dana White snubbing him at UFC 270, Logan Paul on wanting to fight Paddy Pimblett, Mike Tyson and Ciryl Adesanya talking fighter pay, Robert Whittaker blasting Aljamain Sterling, and the UFC looking to start tournaments. We always ask questions after every headline, so make sure you answer them in the comments. Let's get started. UFC heavyweight champ Francis Ngannou recently sat down with Patrick Bet David and discussed his MMA career. They also spoke about Dana White not wrapping the belt around Ngannou's waist after his win over Ciryl Gane at UFC 270. This is what Ngannou had to say.
Personally, I didn't care. I made my statement that night. I was happy. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't care. What I do know is I made my statement. It wasn't about the belt. It wasn't about Dana wrapping the belt around me or the press conference or anybody. By the way, Nick Manor, which for me is a great guy, wrapped the belt around my waist, and that wouldn't be a problem for me. Maybe he has a situation going on. I have no problem with Mick wrapping the belt around my waist. You know, I'm very cool. I'm very happy with Mick. Doesn't mean things was great.
The 17-3 Ngannou recently had surgery on his MCL and ACL, with a recovery time of 9 to 10 months. He became the heavyweight champ by knocking Stipe Miocic out cold and defended his belt against the betting favorite Ciryl Gane. Ngannou also spoke about boxing Tyson Fury, something he's been adamant in doing for the last year, and said this.
I haven't made a plan yet, and also we have a contract situation to figure out, but I want to point out the fact that whether it's a Tyson Fury or whatever, he can still happen under the UFC. When I said I want to box or I want to fight Tyson Fury, that doesn't exclude the UFC. He can still be under the UFC as long as we have a good contract, a respectful term that has been agreed by both parties. I think everything is possible.
Do you think Ngannou's knee surgery will impact his comeback to the UFC? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and while you're at it, consider hitting that subscribe button. Logan Paul recently spoke with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour to discuss his performance at WrestleMania 38. The two also spoke about Paul's potential career in the UFC. Here's what Paul had to say. I found out who I'd like to fight if I did a UFC match, Paddy the Baddy, because they're saying he's possibly the next Conor McGregor, right? He's super charismatic, he's entertaining as hell, he's on the come up, he's young like me, he's got a real loudmouth, but I just like the way he can perform. This was in response to having UFC President Dana White on Impulsive, Paul's podcast, and asking White for a UFC contract. Paul then spoke about that moment. He asked me who I wanted to fight, and I didn't have anyone in mind. Now I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, if I were to do a UFC fight, it needs to be with someone who can sell tickets. Paddy can sell, right? And he's still relatively new. He's young, he's entertaining. I just think the fans will eat that up. Pimblett would then react to Logan Paul's comments on Twitter. Everyone loves talking about the bad man. Nice one, fella, at Logan Paul. Logan Paul, the famous YouTube star, recently boxed the legendary Floyd Mayweather in an exhibition bout, and last Sunday made his WWE debut at WrestleMania 38. Do you see either Logan Paul or his brother Jake ever in the UFC? UFC middleweight champ Ciryl Adesanya was the most recent guest on Hotboxing with Mike Tyson. Tyson and Adesanya spoke about Francis Ngannou and the overall fighter pay situation. Here's what Adesanya had to say. Shout out to my boy, my big brother Francis. He kicked the door down and said, look, this is what's happening. They're paying me this much and I'm this guy. He put it all out there. Mike, imagine at the height of your career, you're fighting and you're getting paid the equivalent of $600,000 to fight? That would be atrocious. To which Mike Tyson replied with, listen, that'd be my training expenses. That's my training expenses. Mike Tyson was the undisputed world heavyweight champion in boxing from 1986 to 1990 and retired with a record of 50-6. Adesanya then commented on new fighters' ability to make money in the UFC. He said this, the guys who are making their debut, they should be able to just get paid and then not have to work at all during their training camp, because a lot of fighters do. They work. Imagine having a second job, get paid, pay management, pay training expenses, then have enough to live off of. The 22-1 Ciryl Adesanya is undefeated at middleweight. His only loss came from Jan Blachowicz when he challenged for the light heavyweight title. Adesanya is targeting Jared Cannonier in July for his 5th title defense. How impactful is it for someone as huge as Ciryl Adesanya to speak on the UFC fighter pay debate? UFC middleweight contender Robert Whittaker had a few words to say about Aljamain Sterling's championship legitimacy. On a recent interview with Main Event, Whittaker said this.
Character he's gone with is just too far. Because he can fight, he's a phenomenal fighter. But you can't go around claiming you're the best in the world from it either. Because he didn't win, Peter lost, okay? That is how it happened. That is the undeniable truth of the matter. So you can't go around saying I'm the champ and I'm the best in the world because you didn't win the belt. You were given it. It's different. I just think he's taking it too far. He's a bit disrespectful.
This is obviously in reference to Petr Yan's illegal knee on Sterling at UFC 259, in which he lost the belt via disqualification. The two are set to rematch this Saturday. Robert Whittaker recently lost to Ciryl Adesanya at UFC 271, but looks to bounce back against Marvin Vettori at UFC 275 in Singapore. Do you agree with Robert Whittaker? And last but not least, the UFC is allegedly looking to start 8-man tournaments. According to John Hyun Ko on Twitter, multiple sources have informed me that the UFC will have 8-man tournaments across 4 divisions, 125, 135, 145, 155, starting in Singapore during UFC 275 Fight Week. One source said that contracts have gone out to Asian fighters and matchmaking is underway. He then said this. Each tournament will be across 3 months. Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and Thai fighters already targeted. If the rumors are true, this could be huge for the UFC in targeting a market that up until now has been dominated by other giant MMA promotions, such as One Championship and Rizin in Japan. Do you think the UFC will be open to doing more special events in the future? That about does it for Sportskeeda MMA news. Here are some of our favorite recent comments. John Caros says, MMA is king. Michael Jordan could boast his rings in a team sport, and Hamzat could make him leave with his tail between his legs. Lane Sherfy says, he young, he's entertaining, and he's 35 pounds smaller than me, lol. The Pauls refuse to call out a 185er. Jonathan Tejeda says, Shavkat is going to be a real problem now. I don't think Usman sticks around much longer. He will say I beat Colby and Masvidal. Retire time. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and share. Your comments could be featured in the next Sportskeeda MMA news video. For updates, quotes, and even exclusive interviews from all your favorite fighters, follow Sportskeeda MMA on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in.